Hello, and welcome to the Continuity Report, Season 1, Episode 4. For January 28th, it's the week of January 28th. Today we're going to be talking about episodes that define the show, a frustrating TV trend, Disney reboots, Star Wars reboots, space movies with great ideas, box office bonus, the Terminal Prequel, the Lance Reddick Legacy Award, Knives Out 3, and the best spy movies. I'm Mayor Watt, that's ohmtown.com, and the channel is the Continuity Report. So we aggregate a lot of our information into when it comes to movies and TV shows and streaming, etc. We're expanding our resources for aggregation, but we only get a little bit. We don't screen scrape, we don't take articles, we don't even take their graphics, really. We just want the headline and a little snippet that tease us so that I can manage my information overload. I started this a few years ago publicly, but I've actually been using it for about a decade, and I use it to manage my information overload. Like I said, I have about 50 areas of interest included in ohmtown.com. And I plan on bringing shows under these sub-channels to Twitch and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and any other podcast catcher containment system that you use. I've got to catch them all, kind of a thing. Oh, better not say that. Nintendo's going to come after me if I say that. Now I'm in trouble. Don't worry. Must enlist them together, or some derivative thereof. You're not allowed to say that phrase because, well, let's just say we won't be a pal of their world at this stage. Anyway, Continuity Report is all about movies and TV shows and video podcasts and pretty much anything video. And we talk about it for about an hour each Sunday night. We just started this up. I'm not sure what's going on. I have a little bit of static. Sorry, folks. At any rate, let's get into the show. I don't have transitions yet. Because of some mayoral duties, I'll have to try and get them installed next weekend. But this is how the sausage is made. We go through 10 articles. Talk about it at length, and then end up ending the show, and then everybody watches it over on YouTube and then podcast, and there's a Discord and all kinds of stuff over at ohmtown.com. I'm Mayor Watt, that's ohmtown.com, and up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI, the one, the only. I don't know what's going on with the static. There isn't.
Good evening, ohmtown citizens. Welcome to the Continuity Report.
That was weird. Sorry about stepping on you there, AI. Appreciate it. I know that you're from the future and you don't have to put up with this crap from the future. Our time machine is actually cooling off because we pushed it pretty hard during the holidays to make up for our past episodes being out of sync, but we're going to be doing it again.
Yeah, we got to get it warmed back up, right?
Yeah.
Cooled down and then warmed back up.
Yeah, it's kind of like an MRI machine. We quenched it and now we got to cool it all back down. And yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Anyway, first article. It's over here in the Continuity Report. Like I said, most of our news gets aggregated into that when it comes to continuity. What is going on? Check and see if it's you. Sorry about that.
I was actually muted when that was going on, so I know it's not me.
Well, okay. It could still be, but anyway. The next article, the article is over in the Continuity Report, 10 great TV episodes that defined their shows forever. Some TV shows develop their distinctive styles that they become inimitable. And their most iconic episodes act as examples of their signature flair. These episodes aren't necessarily the show's best, but they are an essential distillation of everything that makes the show great. Sometimes a single episode can be so revolutionary that it influences the show's entire style moving forward, and it marks a clear turning point. This article is over at ScreenRant.com. Ben Prothero is the author who made that statement that we aggregated into ohmTown. Okay. And the static is gone. So we'll monitor it and see what happens.
I mean, the darn AI.
AI says the darndest things. So the article again is over at ScreenRant.com. It can be hard to sum up a TV show with just one episode, but some outstanding storytelling experiments have become synonymous with their shows. Again, Ben Prothero over at Screen Rant put this article together. I'm interested in the shows, not necessarily like all of the discussion. And in that vein, we always link to our sources and we highlight those sources and we kind of throw in our 2 cents and our experience. The value add here is that we're basically talking about the shows that they're talking about. The Chinese Restaurant from Seinfeld, that's season 2, episode 11, says Seinfeld famously described itself as a show about nothing. You know, I've determined that Good Mythical Morning on YouTube, that's been running for over 12 years, is basically a show about nothing, but it's a food show about nothing. They always have fun. It's a great time. And I liken them to the Seinfeld of morning shows. Now, the AI is throwing error messages.
I think Seinfeld and Good Mythical Morning are both a show about nothing in that sense, but I don't really view them as comparable.
No, the humor is different, fundamentally different. There's kind of it's silly, stupid slapstick over in Good Mythical
That's exactly
Morning.
it.
Yeah, I get that. So, the Chinese Restaurant from the season 2, episode 11, is the perfect crystallization of the concept. A show about nothing. Jerry, George, and Elaine spend the entire episode waiting for a table at a Chinese restaurant before they go to the movie theater. Even for the bottle episode, the Chinese Restaurant is a bold experiment, but it works because of the outstanding cast and the way that they're able to bounce off of one another. This is true of Seinfeld in general. There was so much chemistry, so much well-written material, and Seinfeld himself was pretty much one of the juggernaut engines of this whole thing. To the point, though, that the way that it had been built prevented the stars from really exceeding. Well, they were stuck in an envelope. So they all basically said, well, if we can't be more lucrative together, then we're out. And they actually they ended the show on its like high point, mainly out of respect for each other. Yeah, at least that's my understanding of it, right? So,
well, and most shows I don't think could pull off basically going nowhere in a whole episode. But Seinfeld did, and they did this repeatedly in other episodes as well.
Yeah.
And even just thinking about what the pitch for this episode would look like, it probably wouldn't make it through people. But of course, there was probably a writer's room working on this at the point.
Yeah, exactly. And now I want to go and I want to binge Seinfeld. And I think that it would be a fun thing to do for the Continuity Report or one of the other channels here in ohmTown, and turn it into a podcast. Mainly because when this came out, I was half my age, about. And it ran for a considerable amount of time. Now I've got a whole bunch of worldview change and wisdom and understanding, and I think that kind of like Arrested Development, I have a completely different perception of Arrested Development. It wasn't funny when I first saw it, like some of the episodes. I never watched the whole series because I just didn't align with it, but years later I watch it and I'm laughing my butt off.
Right. I mean, I think it has to do with where you might be in your life or how relatable the scenarios are or the characters.
Yeah. I think it's great. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Reichenbach Fall from Sherlock. I never watched much of Sherlock season 2, episode 3. I can't really say much about it. I really wanted to see what all of the 10 shows were. But I know that this is the dynamic between Sherlock and Moriarty, and it's the whole Arthur Conan Doyle Victorian era spy. Not spy. It's not spy. It's murder mystery.
Detective mystery.
Detective mystery. Yeah. And they talk about it also delivers on the premise of Sherlock, a cerebral thriller that entices its audience to solve a cunning puzzle. But I don't think shows like this really allow you to try and solve the cunning puzzle because you either get too much information at a certain point and you like, oh, it's obvious, or you don't get the right perspective. And thus, you never really get the key ingredient.
Right, like you get too little, and then when it is solved, you're like, wait a second, what's the connection here?
Yeah. But maybe I don't have this, all right, because I'd never really embraced Sherlock. I don't know. So the next one is The Simpsons, 22 short films about Springfield. You okay? Okay.
Yeah, I've never really seen The Simpsons, so I'm not familiar with this episode.
Gotcha. So this is season 7, episode 21, 22 short films about Springfield. I have liked it, but at some point The Simpsons kind of got long in the tooth, and so I bowed out of watching it regularly. Hell, it might still be going. I'm not even sure anymore. It's one of the longest running jokes on the show although it breaks from the usual formula of The Simpsons, 22 short films about Springfield showcases the show's fast-paced humor and its huge cast of fantastic characters. It's one of the longest running jokes on the show that the real location of Springfield is never disclosed, and this allows it to stand in for any small town in America. The focus of 22 short films about Springfield travels all over the town, giving more attention to some underrated characters on The Simpsons, even if
apparently it's still going.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised by that. There's a whole thing on the internet that basically The Simpsons have already done it. Like whatever is actually showing up, The Simpsons have already done it. You want to learn something about something scientific, it's already been talked about. You want to learn something about political, it's already been done.
That's something to its credit, right? Because there aren't a lot of shows that you can say that about.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But with the writer's room big enough and enough creativity and enough people being aware and self-aware, I'm pretty sure it all comes down to good writing. And that's what I think draws people to animated series, adult series, is the writing, not necessarily animation even. But, forever a kid, The Simpsons, they're all stuck at that age and nobody's aged. I think it's kind of amazing that it's persisted for so long. Mad Men, again, I've watched a couple of episodes of Mad Men. It's not really my... I'm kind of bound by certain ideological leanings, and one of them is Mad Men is kind of like misogynistic and
right.
Greed-driven kind of thing. And so I never really got into the show. Season 3, episode 13, Shut the Door, Have a Seat. Sounds like somebody's going to get fired. In Shut the Door, Have a Seat, Don Draper and his associates find out that their company is about to be sold out from under them, so they decide to surreptitiously set up a new company by salvaging as many contracts and personnel as possible all in one weekend. Essentially, they steal their own company, and the episode has all the slick charm of a heist movie with 60s style in abundance.
Well, it does sound like a good episode, and I haven't seen Mad Men.
Yeah, I wonder... we'll have to talk. Because, these hit or miss episodes, they define the series, but are the next shows, the next episodes...
Right, do they live up to that, really?
Yeah. Because this sounds like this could actually be turned into a longer form movie. It's basically a heist, but inside their own company. Just like it's described here. And who's the author again of this whole series? Ben Prothero. describes it great if that's really how it is. And so I would love to watch this episode. So we'll actually kind of hang on to this. Remedial Chaos Theory and Community. Again, it's one of those shows where I've watched a couple of episodes. Oh, there's the static again. What the heck is going on? Anyway, Community often plays around with plot structures, and it uses its more experimental episodes to deconstruct traditional narrative conventions. At Troy and Abed's housewarming party, Jeff lets the roll of a die decide who should go downstairs to get some pizza, or the roll of dice. Oh, I'd have to rephrase that anyway. Abed imagines the 6 different timelines that this event creates, and each one is a miniature episode showing how the dysfunctional group falls apart even more when one member is missing. So it's like a time kind of, yeah.
That's an interesting premise.
Yeah, it's an alternate timelines and multiverse episode. That's pretty cool. That's something that should be in temporology. That's pretty neat. Let me speed up a little bit. This is in Fargo, the castle. I've been told that Fargo is absolutely great.
Well, the movie is. Haven't seen the show though.
Yeah, the movie was great. The show apparently has some pretty spectacular writings. With tons of charming 1970s detail. Season 2 follows an ordinary couple accidentally becoming entangled up with the mob. One of the mob's main enforcers is the enigmatic Hansi, who uses his skills as a tracker to hunt down the family's enemies and tie up loose ends. The Marshal from The Mandalorian. The plot borrows a lot from the Western genre than sci-fi, as Din Djarin forms an uneasy alliance with a small-town marshal to take down a common enemy. Seems pretty straightforward. And the Marshal, I think, is wearing Mandalorian armor. I can't remember the context of how he has it. I think he earned it. Somebody lost a bet and he earned it. And I think that is actually... Whose armor was that? I think it was somebody's armor that he knew. The Mandalorian knew. I'll have to go back and watch that episode. Nosedive from Black Mirror. It's a brilliant deconstruction of the thin veneer of polite society. Nosedive takes a swipe at the gig economy by applying rating systems to everyone, based not only on food delivery or driving, but on every minute of social interaction they have. And it's really interesting because you can be walking around just like today and you're recorded, but there's like a vote meter that people can vote you up or down. You're always on camera. You're always being rated. It's basically social media amplified as a societal norm, to the point where your worth is actually tied to your rating, and people won't hang out with you if you have a low rating. And so Nosedive takes a swipe at that gig economy because that's what happens to her. Bad decision after bad decision. Reigns of Castamere from Game of Thrones, Season 3, Episode 9. We basically no longer talk about Game of Thrones because of Season 8. And it's the Red Wedding, right? This was never more apparent than during the most infamous event in the show's history, the Red Wedding, the bloody revenge plot that was the culmination of 3 seasons worth of slowly climbing tensions. And it all unraveled in spectacular fashion. In fact, to me, the Red Wedding came out like just out of the blue. Although it seems that maybe there was some storytelling here that led to it. I don't even remember the context of it because I didn't read the books. And so I'm watching the series and this happens and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Right. That could be quite shocking.
But they did a lead into this, right? So the guy basically starts monologuing and I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to go down bad because of the monologuing and where he started walking. And by the time I could brace myself, he was already doing something bad. Anyway. Among the deaths of Game of Thrones' Red Wedding was Robb Stark, the King of the North. His demise would have far-reaching impacts to the entire arc of the show, but the Reigns of Castamere isn't just important for plot reasons. It was also brilliantly written and directed. Ultimately, Game of Thrones just isn't my bag. It's much too violent. And then downer ending from BoJack Horseman. I never watched a single episode of this, but my understanding of BoJack Horseman was that it basically was like what do you call it? The anthropomorphic horse was constantly in some emotional crisis, I guess. Downer ending was an early indication of just how deep and dark BoJack Horseman was willing to go. In a drug-induced hallucination, BoJack reckons that his laundry list of personal demons, chief among them are his loveless relationship with his parents, his inability to hold a steady relationship, his ever-shifting sense of self. This essentially is like the embodiment of depression, and so I could never really get into this show. Even though there were things in it, there are plenty of laughs to brighten up BoJack's dark night of the soul. But every time I saw this,
But if most people are looking for comedy, they probably don't want to have depression theme.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. So the author of this article writes, the peculiar genius of BoJack Horseman is that it can juggle heavy themes with jovial, silly humor. I don't know. To me, bouncing back and forth seems psychotic, but let's just go on to the next article. We spent a considerable amount of time on that article. We typically spend a lot less on each article, but try to tease you to go over and read the article. And there's always more over at the articles that we link. So go and check them out. The next article is over in the continuity report as well. Wednesday season 2 is continuing a TV trend that's been frustrating for years now. After Wednesday's successful season 1, a second season has been confirmed, but it looks like it'll be continuing a TV trend that's been frustrating for years. I'm wondering what it is, right? The show recently, blah, blah, blah.
I know. I mean, Wednesday has been a good show in season 1.
Yeah, and the new one is supposed to expand the world building and not be at the school, so I'm not quite sure what the deal is. Let's see. Yeah, they don't actually say in the little snippet, they just hint that there's a problem. So Kyle McLeod over at Screen Rant put the article together. Quote, despite having, not a quote, the deck statement says, despite having a successful first season, Wednesday season 2 appears to be continuing a frustrating TV trend that's been going on for years. Treating TV shows like movies has been a common issue with big franchises, and Wednesday could suffer if it adopts this trend.
That's interesting because I actually think that's a favorable aspect of certain TV shows.
Isn't it? Don't you think that a continuity between episodes is kind of fundamental to the world building and the long term of the show? Even in Seinfeld, where there were bottle episodes, there were threads of continuity that ran throughout it. From girlfriends, the theme about his girlfriends, to the soup Nazi, to where everybody worked.
I think Kramer. It depends on the type of show. So if there's a bunch of action or something, it might feel like a movie, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if it is like a sitcom or something, maybe more so like you're describing.
See, but it has threads in it, so it wasn't really treated like just a TV show, even though each episode had was somewhat of a bottle.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant it was like a TV show because of the continuity.
And so the way that a movie is, it's a long form TV show, and they're saying that it's a common issue with big franchises, and Wednesday could suffer if it adopts the trend, treating a TV show like a movie. But these kind of movies, or I should say these types of TV shows, aren't really TV. They are snippets of movie just broken up because nobody is going to sit for a 9-hour
20
movie.
hour or whatever.
Right, because it's only like 8 episodes nowadays.
Right.
So nobody's going to sit for an 8-hour movie, but if you chop up the long form movie into, meaty chunks of consumption, treat it like a movie. You know, if I have to watch it in a staccato fashion or wait until it all drops and then just binge it, then I think it's great. I don't really buy into this. What I want is everything to drop all at once and I can just sit there. But they don't do that because they learn their lesson that when they drop it all at once, people will spend the weekend and then bow out of month to month
And then drop their subscription. And yes, part of the problem with the streaming method.
They say Wednesday may follow the same exhausting format of other TV shows over the past few years. Although the series mastered its pacing and style in its first season, there will be some changes when the show returns, and that may not be a good thing. But what are they actually picking a fight with? Same exhausting format.
I think they think it's like too amped up, basically, per episode.
Yeah, I don't know. Wednesday Season 2's movie tease continues a disappointing TV trend. Wednesday feeling like a series of mini movies simply isn't required, but that's a perception that they have, that this actually is just a long movie chopped into pieces. If you remove all of the breaks, this is just a long form movie. It's just like a Vice article, you know. It could have been constructed in segments and then parsed out each week, but that's not how they do it. This has to be plopped out bit by bit because Netflix wants people watching more than Wednesday and then bowing out. You know, 1 month for $8, or it's going to take 9 weeks, right? Let's say it takes 9 weeks for this to plop out. That means that they're going to be here for 3 months. Everybody's going to be here for 3 months because they can't get that last episode until it rolls over into the next month. So they're there for 3 months. I don't know. I'm
not really seeing the issue, but
yeah. Jenna Ortega's Wednesday Season 2 details indicated that the episodes will feel more like movies. Jenna Ortega said, quote, everything's bigger and more action-packed. I think each episode will probably feel a little bit like a movie. And that kind of triggered the author into writing that TV series shouldn't be like movies. But no, I want it big and bold and a long-form continuity. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. How do you all feel about it out there? Come back over to the Continuity Report next Sunday and tell us about it. We'll see you in chat. Let's keep going. The next article is over in the Continuity Report. 10 Disney Channel shows that deserve the reboot treatment after Wizards of Waverly Place. I don't know if you know about this, but Wizards of Waverly Place is apparently coming back with Selena Gomez actually going to be involved in it, along with her dad at the time. I can't remember his name. Anyway, if you've never watched Wizards of Waverly Place, it was a fun show for quite some time. I think like the last season, it got a little tedious it
looks like it was 4 seasons, and it looks like, sorry, I was trying to find the dad's character, but I can't locate it. Jerry Russo.
There you go. So Margarita Askarova is the author of the article. Sorry, I'm trying to. Who are these people?
They might be from the other shows that are getting featured in this.
Yeah, these are. Yeah, they are. And I just realized what I was looking at because it's been so long since I saw any of their faces. Wizards of Waverly Place is supposed to be coming back, rebooted. And like I said, the ending of Wizards of Waverly Place, it's one of those shows that was just fun. You could watch it. It was a kid's show. You could watch it with your kids. And it was like a no-brainer. You could just kind of have a good time. And the show ended kind of in a tedious way where they were trying to pass the wand, the main wand, to the next next kid or whoever it is that's going to take over the mantle. And And so now people are talking about others. So Lizzie McGuire is the one that's right up here. Good Luck Charlie deserves a reboot to cater to the desires of the original audience. The revival of Jessie could explore whether Jessie was successful in Hollywood and show her as a new parent. And a reboot of Casey Undercover would follow Casey as a newly graduated spy trying to balance a normal job and secret missions. Well, she's now in Dune, so
yeah, they might have to recast it. But all of those were good shows. I haven't seen Lizzie McGuire, but I've seen the other ones.
Yeah, this was earlier on. So anyway, yeah. I don't know about Girl Meets World because it was already canceled. Boy Meets World. They tried to reboot something else after that, I think. I can't remember now. That's So Raven is another show that came up, and then Raven's Home existed, but I never watched any of those. So Disney has attempted to revive its other shows before. That's So Raven, again, Raven's Home. Wizards of Waverly Place, a reboot, lives to tell the tale and proves to be the success that Disney expects it to be. It'll pave the way for others in a series, which has either been prematurely canceled for this or that reason, or are believed to have a lot of potential and stories to tell. Now, when those shows were canceled, you're talking about 20 years or so. I mean, it's been a long time.
Well, I mean, they could almost redo them with current. I mean, I guess they could just re-air them, but they could put younger actors in and just redo the shows.
Yeah.
Because it'd be almost a new generation of people watching it.
Right. And I don't really remember the times for these shows, but Sweet Life on Deck, it actually had been rebooted a couple of times, different ways. Sweet Life on Deck, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. There was a couple of other things I think that were like tied to it in some way. They would have to find another pair of charismatic kids to bring in. Lizzie McGuire was almost a phenomenon based on discussions that I've had at the time, because I've been kind of a fan of Disney's mechanics in their business development processes, because they tie in basically a person who is an actor, a musician, model,
dancer, singer.
Yeah, they basically have multiple things, and then they tie them into other shows, and then that gets parlayed into their own show. It introduces them, and so the world building is quite tight. It's pretty amazing mechanics. So bringing back a Lizzie McGuire, what I don't want, here's the rough part. I mean, I'm just really there's another show with Miranda Cosgrove and Gordo, I think it is, broke off on their own. Lizzie McGuire was their own show. The thing about it is, I really don't want the character, I don't want it resurrected as this is the parent and here are the kids.
Well, I think they're all going to be like that. That's what it looked like for A Sweet Life.
Because the problem here is that these shows were created in a vacuum and they had their own character. Why?
By the way, was that iCarly that you were talking about?
iCarly, yeah. iCarly was another show off of the Lizzie McGuire show. And then iCarly came back in a later generation where they're all adults. And I don't know how that actually has been received, but the thing about it is these shows spun up without any fan following, right? There wasn't some lead into the show. It just spun up. Everybody had charisma. People became very passionate about the show. You had a fan base. So why spin it back up and go, here's Lizzie McGuire as a parent and here are her kids? Because
there are no original ideas. Then you can tap into like the parents who made a watch the show as kids or something.
But the parents aren't the decision makers. If the kids don't like it, they're not going to watch a Lizzie McGuire reboot. And I can tell you why they won't watch a Lizzie McGuire reboot if Lizzie McGuire is the parent and part of the story. because the parents are going to be paying attention to the show. And the kids don't want the parents paying attention to the show. You know, how many shows did you want to sit around and watch after you were watching cartoons? You know, the moment you could make your own decision to change the channel is when you said, I don't want my parents watching what I'm watching because it's not cool anymore. So same thing. You know, Good Luck Charlie. Good Luck Charlie was probably one of the most Puritan shows that I could possibly watch. There was not an ounce of bad acting without overwhelming regret of being a bad actor. They miss school because of a flat tire, and it's almost like they've done some horrible sin. But it was a fun show to watch. Always had a message. And they're talking about Charlie because what it was right, Teddy was doing videos for Charlie. Now Charlie's going to be 15 years old. Man, if it's going to be Good Luck Charlie, it needs to be almost like the all-woman Ghostbusters, where they don't even acknowledge the previous existence of Ghostbusters. It needs to be a unique IP modeled after this, sure, but I don't think it needs to reboot. Just call it something else, you know, like have it be called something other than Good Luck Charlie. But the tie-in is that they found videos called Good Luck Charlie, and the new protagonist, Teddy, the new Teddy, starts doing that for their younger brother or sister, you know?
Right.
Jesse, that was a fun show. It got really wonky. It was always zany. Girl Meets World, that was almost fanatical following. I don't think that they can reboot it because I don't think the charisma is there. If they're going to do it, it's going to have to be similar, but not called Girl Meets World, or Boy Meets World. I don't think that it can work. Casey Undercover, it would be interesting, but I think they could do this with anybody, any skilled actor. As long as they have fun, then Casey Undercover could exist. But again, it's one of those other things, right? Zendaya is not going to be able to be part of a Disney property.
No, she's doing major movies on her own.
Yeah. And Shake It Up, man, this thing, I never in a million years would have thought that this would have flipped the way that it did, right? Because Zendaya became an actor, but was the one that had the dancing chops. And the other one became a musician. And to me, didn't have any dancing chops. And I don't know where she ended up, but I thought it was really interesting. But it was just this kind of friends who danced on a local show and dreamed of becoming professional performers. Well, Zendaya actually, because she was known as Zendaya even then, obviously made it. Austin and Ally, that was a fun show to watch. It was all about a music. It was a music store, and I don't know if these two became like a thing or anything, but it says have Austin and Ally's children join the family business. It's always,
I guess so.
it's always going to be pulling back the parents. And again, I just don't think that it should be like that, because no kid wants to sit there and go, hey, I'm watching a show my parents want to watch because they know Austin and Ally, for crying out loud. No. And then Liv and Maddie. That was another fun show. It was the same person, and it was composited, and it was very, very innovative at the time. It was almost like what was it? There's another show, but they actually used twins, like Parent Trap.
Parent Trap?
Yeah. And no, Parent Trap actually, it was one person. if I recall
Correct.
correctly.
But so was this.
Yeah, and they composited it. And the compositing was spectacular. You could not tell that it was two different people, or that it was the same person, two different scenes. I mean, it was really amazing work. And then Sunny with a Chance. I don't remember this one at all. Oh, it was a spin-off from So Random, because Demi Lovato basically flamed out at one point as a young actor. There was some substance abuse or something like that, and a bunch of people were impacted by it. And if I recall correctly, that's kind of what happened. And then she's made a comeback as a musician. So I don't know. Sunny with a Chance probably wouldn't work either, but they could make it something similar again. Because when it spun off, it became just like these little bit things.
Right. I mean, I think the original premises are the things that work. So
Yeah.
they'd have to kind of track with that rather than trying to do the older generation.
Yeah. Again, there's minutia for this kind of discussion. So there's the article in the chat. Sorry if I didn't place it earlier, but let's keep on going. The next article is over in, oops, me zooming when I don't need to. Temporology, rebooting Star Wars is a great idea, actually. And I agree. I think, here, I'll throw it into chat early. I'm going to go straight on over to Reactor. It's reactormag.com, but it goes by Reactor. Charlie Jane Anders is the author. Rebooting Star Wars is a great idea, actually. And I agree. I think that the world building around Star Wars and expanding it and encouraging generation after generation not to just get stuck on the old, already done stuff. Because at some point it's going to be so antique that people aren't going, except for niche interested people, they're no longer going to be interested.
They're just going to be like, it's the same movie over and over again.
Yeah. Or if they're even new to Star Wars, they may watch it, but they're going to go, God, the graphics are so dated. Because when you watch something that's upscaled, or you watch something with newer technology that's older, you can see the crappy compositing and the block compositing. You can actually see it. Like watching an old Star Wars or Star Trek movie, you can actually see the Enterprise going across the sky, and you see where the compositing was done, and it's just so horrible. What I want is it ever evolving, even so much as going back and redoing the movie with a new cast, keeping the energy and the spirit of that movie alive, just updating the technology that's involved. Because obviously these people aren't always going to be around. Cough, cough. One is definitely not around right now. And so I think that rebooting it would be great. Get new actors, embrace the world building. And that's actually what's happening with Star Wars right now. Matthew Vaughn has a new movie coming out, Argyle, that interviews are almost certain to ask him more about his thoughts on Star Wars, which means you'll be seeing a lot more headlines about Vaughn's blasphemous views. For those who missed it, Vaughn said a while ago that he would love to direct a Star Wars movie, but only if he could retell the story of the Skywalker family. To Vaughn's mind, the story of Luke and his dad in the story of Star Wars, and it deserved to be rebooted the same way Batman and Spider-Man already have been, although I've never liked any Batman retelling. Spider-Man, it really depends. The newer ones.
Right, there's several different versions.
Yeah. So how do you know if a reboot is necessary? There are probably a bunch of factors, like how long has it been since the last story was told? Are there aspects of the earlier telling that now feel dated or even problematic? Yes. Did the original version brush over key parts of the story that a newer telling could explore in greater depth? Yes. Most importantly, perhaps, is there a potential for a new, refreshed continuity that can prove fertile and give rise to an exciting new set of stories? Yes, the world building can be profound because there's actually books about Star Wars that could be integrated into movies, and the canon actually expanded for the cinematic universe, kind of like how the MCU riffs off of the comics, but isn't identical to the comics.
Exactly. It's not afraid to expand the storyline, even though purists may not like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're rolling around right now in their basements. So the author here says that they've written about it before, but would love a version of the original trilogy that focused more heavily on the central question about Luke Skywalker. Will he go bad the same way his father did? This is the theme that comes up from time to time in those 3 films, but it deserves a much deeper examination. To me, it seemed like it was really weakly explored that he was going to turn bad.
I agree. I think so too, and I feel like it was done out of maybe necessity, but it was kind of like, we gotta pass this through the movie, but we're not going to devote like a whole movie to it, right? This might actually be good for a TV show, for instance.
Yeah, there was just something there. And then the newer versions of the newer movies, 1, 2, and 3, and 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, 9, sorry. Basically, I thought were kind of clunky and junky, and if you watch them in the continuity of the actual timeline, you see this hyper modern technology being used, and then it goes 70s era horrible compositing on 4K plus TVs, and then high tech again with a horrible story. So you basically have some winning because there's charismatic characters in it, and then there's fun storytelling. I don't know. No, I can't say it because I definitely will get people sending me nasty grams. Then the 3 from the 70s basically are interesting, but it didn't go really deep into character. To me, it didn't.
I don't think any of it went deep into character. The only place we've seen any of that is in the modern TV shows.
Yeah, I think so too. It says like in 7, 8, and 9 just drove me nuts. I didn't like any of them. So most of all, though, they would really welcome a new film series that took the female characters of the saga, especially Padme and Leia, more seriously. Why does Padme like Anakin anyway? Isn't it kind of weird that she knew him as a little kid first? That always bothered me. I'm like, how did she end up with this kid?
It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, literally referring to him as little Annie. In general, she deserves a stronger character arc and much better death. And even her death was hinted at as being caused by the Sith and stuff. So none of it. I just don't like the storytelling. And even the originals, I thought were kind of light, but I really appreciated them for the time frame that they were in, because there wasn't anything like it. Anyway, so it's a fun article to read. So I would actually encourage you to go over and check it out. But let's keep on moving. The next article is over in the continuity report as well. 10 space movies with great ideas that we wish were better. Sci-fi movies can attract a lot of attention with a fascinating premise, but great ideas don't always translate into great movies. So let's go and take a look at these. Again, it's over at Screen Rant. I wish the static would stop. Ben Prothero is hitting out of the park this week with this 10 as well, I think. Ambitious ideas, stunning visuals don't always result in successful space movies. I agree. I have been saying ever since we started this show and before, across the start of ohmTown Daily News Show, it's writing. Writing. If the story sucks, nobody's going to care how amazing the tech is.
Exactly, because you're going to be like, why is this happening? Or,
yeah,
what's the connection here?
Yep. So, again, the premise of this is space movies with great ideas that we wish were better. And Passengers is one of them. This guy just seems like a dimwit. Visually, Passengers borrows a lot from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Even the camera angles and the big views of things, definitely like Kubrick masterpiece kind of a thing. I don't think it's a masterpiece in any way, shape, or form, so I'm not comparing it to Stanley Kubrick, but this article is actually doing that. So instead, Passengers is a fairly derivative romance, and I think it's even weak because I don't think that she's into him, he's into her, and she's just looking for companionship. So it says, however, there are more allusions to another of Kubrick's films, The Shining. Martin Sheen plays a bartender who seems plucked from the movie, and the vast, empty halls of the spaceship imprison Jim like the Overlook Hotel, except the Overlook was a sentient hotel, an evil sentient hotel. This all hints towards the potential of Passengers as a horror movie, and it would be even scarier if it was told from Aurora's perspective. I agree. So basically, you're just watching this take place, and this is just kind of I never really liked the movie. I liked the visuals. They were basically trapped together, so, affections were formed. And he got her out of the stasis. So, Jupiter Ascending. The Wachowskis struggle to rein in a chaotic space opera. The world building in Jupiter Ascending could have been spectacular. The idea of the chosen one is one of the most overused sci-fi tropes around. This is all from the article. Channing Tatum whisks Mila Kunis, through rocket boot chases and space ship dogfights. Jupiter Ascending lacks any emotional thrust. This movie is just go, 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 go all the time. There is some political intrigue in this, and you find out what the purpose of humans are in the grand scheme of things. It's actually some really fun world building. But unfortunately,
like it just doesn't execute on, because it sounds like it has an interesting premise.
It is a lot of fun, but you don't get enough of it, right? The things that would be more interesting, which would be the more of the cultural, the world building, more of the culture, more of the history behind this. It's kind of like watching part 1 of Dune and never seeing part 2, never having the books as resources to fill in the blanks for your intellectual curiosity, your cravings. But it's, to me, it was a lot of fun to watch, and I would love this to be just make another Jupiter Ascending, but they opened and closed the door on this in one movie, which is a real shame. Apollo 10 and a half, A Space Age Childhood, or 1 and 2? I don't know.
I've not even heard of this one.
It's 10 and a half, yeah. I think I've heard of it, but I don't remember it. Replete with charm, but a little unbalanced. I can't really say much about it. But Richard Linklater found the perfect use for a signature rotoscope animation for Apollo 10 and a half, as the cartoonish facsimile of real life reflects the childlike imagination of the narrator, Stanley. We'll have to go on to the next one. Gravity. Looks beautiful. Alfonso Cuarón's direction maintains a breathless pace to mirror the emotional torment of the protagonist. Gravity stretches the boundaries of scientific plausibility. I think
a lot of sci-fi movies do.
Yeah, that's very true. Ad Astra, it's from 2019, moody and desolate, but without the requisite nuance. The pace is too slow to make it a thriller, and the dialogue falls short of its deep philosophical aspirations. The gorgeous work by interstellar cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema means that Ad Astra can be enjoyed with the sound off, but its plot doesn't back this up with much substance. So watching it, I guess, isn't that much. But apparently it's pretty big in scope. I don't remember watching it. So Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is a book that became a movie. And there's no way that you can translate the entirety of the book into the nuance of the book. And they did an admirable job. But it's silly. I mean, the whole thing is just silly. The movie changed much of what makes the book so popular, and it struggled to translate Adams' absurdist humor into the screen. That's exactly what I just said. And I haven't read this, so.
It seems like that type of book would be difficult to adapt to any movie.
Yep, I agree. Mission to Mars, we didn't watch. The first Brave Act, which evaporates too soon. Mission to Mars seems more invested in its premise than the characters involved. It tells the story of the first unmanned mission to the Red Planet and the horrors which await the astronauts. We really can't talk about it too much. Same thing with Prospect. Two-dimensional characters against a fascinating backdrop. This one might be interesting to watch, but they say here, narratively speaking, Prospect is an old-fashioned Western, following an uneasy alliance between prospectors in an unfamiliar land replete with bandits and environmental danger. Might be fun. It's a space Western.
It sounds interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So Prospect, huh? Apollo 18 is number 2, and Elysium. Again, the world building in Elysium could have been much better. Neil Blomkamp from District 9, which was a great story, although even I would have loved a part 1 and part 2 to really stretch the world building. It's not enough. This type of sci-fi is never enough. We need more world building. It would be better as a TV show where you have season after season character arc and world building, and even have off-air like ARG, a game component or something that really keeps everybody together in a community, and just keep it constantly growing, even if it acts like downloadable content. Elysium has the ability to do so much more because the objective was that Matt Damon try and make it to Elysium, which is a ring around the planet, and eventually, well, you have to watch it. He gets this power armor bolted onto him. It's pretty wild. It's a lot of fun, but it is a story of class warfare. But it's opened and closed, in a
right.
movie,
Well, they don't have enough time in these movies to really explore a lot of this.
Oh crap! I hope that doesn't continue for the rest of the show. Anyway, let's keep on going. The next article is over in the continuity report. Tom Holland's box office bonus for Marvel was sent to a British actor, Tom Hollander, by mistake. Quote, an astonishing amount of money, a 7-figure sum. This is the bonus for Marvel. Wow.
I mean, I hope Tom Holland said, okay, Tom Hollander, you can have this, but somehow I doubt that.
Tom Hollander is a British actor known for performances in Pride and Prejudice, the Pirates of the Caribbean films, White Lotus, Night Manager, the latter of which earned him a BAFTA. What he isn't is Tom Holland, a 27-year-old superstar who plays Peter Parker Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the article basically from the article from Zach Sharf over at Variety writes about this. Apparently...
Hey, this is so backwards. I mean, he's in things like Pride and Prejudice, right?
Yeah.
Like probably critically acclaimed.
Yep. Well, I mean, he got him a BAFTA from Night Manager, and the White Lotus is well received. And Pirates of the Caribbean films, he's all over the Pirates of the Caribbean films apparently. But
meanwhile, I've been less than impressed with the Peter Parker character. But anyway.
Oh yeah, well, everybody loves. See, like out of all of the Spider-Man movies, it's the Tom Holland one that I actually like. But it's more chill and doesn't have a co-star that I think is kind of dippy. And so it says Hollander thought to himself, I don't think I'm in the Avengers, but proceeded to open the email that was intended for Holland instead. It was an astonishing amount of money. It was not his salary. It was his first box office bonus, not the whole box office bonus, the first one. And it was more money than he'd ever seen. It was a 7-figure sum.
Wow.
But if you watch Tom Holland's acting during the snap, it moved people to tears.
Okay.
So, can I say that Tom Holland deserves a 7-figure bonus that wasn't the entirety of the bonus and it trumps somebody's entire salary history? No, I can't say that. But that's my bias, that I think that somebody that's in all of these movies deserves, but it's all about how well they're received and the contract negotiations that earn somebody
And
that
the
money.
commercial success of things, although interestingly, those were successful items
Yeah.
for the Tom Hollander list.
Yeah, but Tom Hollander, though, wasn't the primary in any of these.
Well,
In
that's probably the
Spider-Man,
difference.
Tom
Yeah.
Holland crushed it as Spider-Man. In this iteration of Spider-Man, it was stupendously well received. And by the way, Spider-Man is Stan Lee's baby. And so anybody that speaks negatively about Spider-Man is basically, you know,
Anti Stan Lee, anti Marvel.
Yeah, the demigod of Stan Lee. So anyway, I love this, and I really do love this iteration of Spider-Man versus the previous ones. They just seem kind of clunky and poorly acted. But I definitely dig Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So anyway, let's keep on going. Oh, did I throw this into the chat? No, I probably did not. 10 Space Movies was the last one. I hope that we don't run into the same problem that we have with the Screen Rant. We have a few more articles from them. So the Terminal List prequel show casts Umbrella Academy alum alongside Chris Pratt. So if you've never heard of Terminal List, you'll have to go and watch it. It's actually over on Prime Video. It's still there, right? Chris Pratt as a Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander James Reese, who finds himself in the middle of a tangled web of memories and conspiracies when he returns home. Dark Wolf, which will reprise the Pratt role, follows Reese ex-teammate Ben Edwards, or Taylor Kitsch, 5 years before the events of the show. So Brendan Klein over at Screen Rant put the article together. Rafe may also appear in Terminal List Season 2. Tom Hopper from the Umbrella Academy has joined the cast as a series regular in the role of a character of Rafe Hastings. What else can you say about this? I'm having a hard time remembering the Terminal List.
Well, I don't really want to give away the spoiler, but some events happen to the lead, and then he kind of goes on a
spree,
almost like a vigilante mission. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
But there's kind of like a conspiracy element going on. I mean, it's an action type show. There's a fair amount of violence in it, but it's a good story.
If it wasn't for the Manchurian Candidate side of things, I think it would be a parallel to whatchamacallit.
Oh, like Born Identity, and the other ones,
yeah. Because Pratt basically, starts kicking everybody's ass. So yeah, it's a fun watch. But definitely, you're gonna have to go and read this article. That way, we can kind of get you out of here within some semblance of time. We'll be here for 2 more hours if we keep prattling on. The next article is over in the Continuity Report. Keanu Reeves to receive inaugural Lance Reddick Legacy Award at the 51st Saturn Awards. So the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films has announced that Keanu Reeves will receive the inaugural Lance Reddick Legacy Award at the 51st Saturn Awards. The entire show will be dedicated to the memory of the late Reddick, who died at the age of 60 in March of 2023. And Reeves was friends with Reddick. You know what? Like in spirit, I think everybody was a friend with Reddick. Everybody.
Right. I mean, he was reported very positively. There were a lot of articles about him upon his death.
Always. Every time anybody ever mentioned him, everybody was like, damn, that dude has just his charisma, his character, his demeanor.
His
Um,
acting skills. I mean, it was just all, yeah, and it was all positive about his personality.
always. So Jaden Thompson over at Variety put the article together. Reeves, who was friends with Reddick, starred alongside him in the John Wick action thriller franchise. Reddick appeared in all 4 movies as Karen, the concierge at the Continental Hotel, where his character interfaced with Reeves' titular hitman.
There it is again.
Titular, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you have to use titular. Anyway, the statement continued. Keanu is not just a Hollywood icon, but also a shining example of humility and gratitude. Throughout his incredible career, he's never forgotten the support of his fans and filmmakers who've supported him all these years. He's been through some shit, y'all. And it says here, we're thrilled to celebrate Lance's memory with a dear friend and a genre icon. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's neat.
I think that's
I
neat
think
too.
that's neat that they established the award and that Keanu is receiving it.
Yep. So the Saturn Awards, the 51st Saturn Awards, will take place on February 4th at 4 p.m. Pacific time and will be hosted by Joel McHale. Electric Now will stream the ceremony live. I don't know where it will be streamed, but it says here Electric Now will stream the ceremony live. I think that's awesome. And I think that it's great that there is a whole award now in Lance Reddick's name. So, dun dun dun. Let's keep going. The next article is over in the Continuity Report again. Knives Out 3 gets first major filming update. So I liked both of the previous Knives Out. It's Benoit Blanc mystery Knives Out 3. I have a hard time saying Benoit Blanc. Has received a major filming update after months of silence following on from 2019's Knives Out. In the 2022 Glass Onion sequel, Netflix would pick up the rights for 2 sequels in a massive $469 million deal, drawing much of his inspiration from the work of renowned mystery novelist Agatha Christie. Writer-director Rian Johnson would later establish his 2022 sequel, Glass Onion, as a standalone mystery with only Daniel Craig's brilliant Southern detective returning. He does such a good job of playing this guy.
No, I mean, like you forget he's acting, right? Like, I mean, that's a sign of good acting, I suppose,
Yeah.
but he really gets into the character.
Exactly. I don't know how much I'll be able to play of this, or scroll of this, because I think it's in Screen Rant Premium. So, per the new report from Deadline, filming on the... see, this comes from Deadline, so... Filming on the as-yet untitled Knives Out 3 is set to begin later this year, 2024, with Craig once again reprising his role as Benoit Blanc. This latest news comes off the back of producer Katie McNeil joining Johnson's and Ram Bergman's T Street partners. T Street is also set to release the upcoming Netflix series Three Body Problem, which I am hearing about everywhere, helmed by Game of Thrones, David Benioff, and Dan Weiss, along with True Blood's Alexander Wu. So they say that it could be a crossover with Rian Johnson's other mystery series, Poker Face, right? Yeah. Former casino worker with an uncanny ability to detect lies. Yet before Poker Face's celebrated season 1 debut, Leone also made a brief cameo appearance in 2022's Glass Onion.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This is almost like they're building that character integration like Disney does, right? Riff off of each other so that everybody is amplified. It's kind of like marketing within the series, right? If you're always seeing the same characters, the world building just kind of pops bigger and bigger. And I love this kind of stuff because later on you find out, that this was actually kind of a tease that this was going to take place, and they knew about it all along. And
right, but the viewers don't know it.
Yeah, it's like Argyle, right? You're going to find out that
Yes.
There's 4 other movies that are actually already written, ready to go, just waiting for the first one to really pop, and then blam, you find out that they're all out there. It would be great if it's like that. So with a brief appearance in mind, many theorize that it may be possible for Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc and Leon's Charlie Cale to potentially team up at some point in the future. However, Johnson would later reveal at Leon's Glass Onion cameo, the actor was actually playing herself on the set of Poker Face, meaning that the show starring Leon existed in the world of Knives Out. So see how I called it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're building the world together, making it bigger and bigger. And it's this kind of stuff that allows it to just grow. Now they can... The world of Knives Out isn't bound by just, Benoit Blanc being called. It's this other set as well. Yeah, I love this stuff. Okay, we have one more article, and it's over in the continuity report. We won't go through this line by line because there's just too many. But this is the 30 best spy movies of all time. AI and I really like spy movies. We're not fanatical about these. Well, pretty much anything. But it's this discussion about what could be best.
Genre.
Right? So the best spy movies invite audiences into a world of intrigue, danger, and action. James Bond is undoubtedly the first character to spring to mind when the genre is discussed, and while Ian Fleming's 007 surely helped to raise its popularity and inspire imitators, the spy movie was around long before Bond, yes. And I'm not really a big fan of Bond because he's a misogynist. And the genre has branched out considerably since then, which is weird because, like, when I was younger, I never really took all of that kind of stuff into consideration. I just existed. But as I got older, I realized, there's cognizance of this kind of James Bond dynamic, and acceptance of it means that there's a disconnect between society, one person and another. It's a lack of respect. Become aware of it.
I do think the more recent James Bond movies have moved away from that in some way, but I don't know that it's gone.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll pay attention. See, the last movie I saw with him in it, somebody was swinging a heavy weight around on a rope and whacking him with it. I'm sorry. I'm like, okay, this is just silly. This is dumb. Anyway, Sean S. Lialos and Zachary Moser over at Screen Rant put this article together. The best spy movies are full of gripping intrigue, big twists, and heart-pulsing action sequences, and feature brilliant secret agent characters. Again, I don't know how far into this I'll be able to go, but number 30 is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Sam Rockwell stars as a Gong Show host, Chuck Barris. I've actually seen I've seen this. I don't remember much of it. I can't say that I'm really into it, but he wrote an unauthorized biography where Barris claims he worked as a CIA assassin at the same time that he was a television host.
Okay.
Spy Game from 2001, Robert Redford and Brad Pitt as an espionage thriller. Salt stars Angelina Jolie as a Russian sleeper agent. That actually got some pretty good reviews, if I recall. Tenet.
Okay, that is an excellent movie. I know that's a love-hate movie for people, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch. Scientifically, I think it's pure garbage, but the whole...
Visually, it's very interesting.
Yeah, just amazing. A spy comedy starring Melissa McCarthy called Spy. She's always gotten kind of a bad rap, but I've liked her, and she gets slapsticky.
I think she's quite brilliant at comedy.
Yeah,
she really is.
Yeah, I really like her. Let's see, Ronin, Robert De Niro as a mercenary. I don't think I've ever watched that one. Enemy of the State, that was actually pretty cool. I liked it. Will Smith, though, times change. Somebody needs to smack him back. A Tony Scott spy conspiracy thriller. It was a fun watch. Hannah, I never watched it. The movie that inspired the Prime Video series. Burn After Reading was awesome. the Coen Brothers slapstick spy movie. It was actually a great watch. True Lies, that was a lot of fun to watch. James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger spy thriller. Kingsman: The Secret Service. Oh, let me tell you, Kingsman was a fun watch, but if you have the wrong person in the room, it will probably not be the most fun, because you'll be they may perceive you in the wrong light because you're laughing your ass off about things. So
I think that's fair.
You might want to pick your movie watcher. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Because it really is kind of stupid at times. Sneakers is spectacular. I cannot believe that it's number 19 on this list.
No, I can't either, but I am glad it is on the list.
Yeah, Robert Redford's spy caper movie. This is a story that starts prior to the context of the movie, right? So it actually shows how the people ended up where they are at the beginning of the movie. So you don't miss a beat why there is something happening at the end of the movie, and that this guy was actually chosen. I mean, when you start thinking about this movie after you watch it, you're like, oh, now I know why all of this took place. Atomic Blonde, Charlize Theron's take on a John Wick style movie. It was a fun watch. I could probably watch it again. I haven't seen it for a while, so keeps the misdirection going. Notorious. I think I've seen it, but not since
not recently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in most things by Hitchcock are going to be epic.
I think I watched this in a film class. Argo, haven't watched it. It's about the U.S. hostage crisis in Tehran. I'm not too interested in that kind of thing. So Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, is number 15. Silly, fun, turn off your brain, watch it, have a good time. Black Klansman, haven't watched it. An undercover movie exposing the Ku Klux Klan. The Conversation, Gene Hackman's award-winning spy movie. It's from 1974. Surveillance.
Haven't heard of
expert.
That one. I'm sure it's well known.
This one might be interesting to watch. We might have to watch it. Gene Hackman's in it. Gene Hackman tends to end up in these spy movies.
Yeah, I think he's gotten kind of typecast, but I mean, he always does a great job in any movie I've seen him in.
He was in Enemy of the State, right?
Was he? Well, yes, I think so.
Yeah. The Imitation Game, I know about it. I didn't watch it. The True Story of Alan Turing. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is spectacular. If you've never watched it, go and watch it. Gary Oldman. Basically, I'll watch everything that he ever does.
That Le Carré is associated with. And Gary Oldman, is...
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Le Carré, yeah. Let's see here. Goldfinger. Sean Connery's
that's one of the
best...
James Bond, yeah.
Munich, I never watched. The True Story of the Munich Massacre. 3 Days of the Condor. I think I watched this when I was younger, but I wasn't really into it. But it's political thriller. The Lives of Others. The Bourne Supremacy. I bet you most of the Bourne stuff is in this. The second movie in the original.
Right, you think so?
Yeah.
It's interesting that they picked the second one, but...
So far. Bridge of Spies. Steven Spielberg's True Story of the Cold War. If you ever go to the Spy Museum and then you watch Bridge of Spies, you'll probably see, you'll go, oh yeah, this movie looks like the Spy Museum. Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. Mission Impossible Fallout. I've liked all of the Mission Impossible movies, even setting aside my kind of dislike of Tom Cruise. He does his own to a degree. There's a lot of marketing involved, but he does all of these stunts that are like
Really ridiculous.
really ridiculous. Like this one that he jumps off of a dirt berm onto a freaking train and he parachutes over to the train.
Right. I'm like, how many actors are doing that? So you have to give them credit for that at least. Plus, the movies are always fun.
They're always fun, yeah. So Inglorious Bastards, two words that don't really exist. If you've never seen it, it's a Quentin Tarantino flick, so expect, well, rapid discussion, fast scenes, violence. But it's a lot of fun. It was an effort to kill Hitler. And the hilarity ensues. Casino Royale.
Right.
I would probably say Casino Royale might be the best of the Daniel Craig ones. And then North by Northwest. This has to be, I don't know. This has to be a nostalgia kind of a thing. Like they are really crying for the story of the Wayback Machine back in 1959 when it was really about the story and not special effects and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, obviously it can't hold up to current movies for special effects. But...
yeah. This is kind of weird.
Yeah, why is it? Was it doing that, or were you scrolling farther up? It looked like it repeated them.
Hold on a second. Goldfinger, right? Did it flip again?
You got to 1, and then somehow we got to 10.
Yeah, it did it again. It just
interesting.
3,
just in case
2,
you missed the bottom
1.
or the last.
Just
10.
making sure.
Oh wow, something's off.
It's a mystery. Look, it's a spy within a spy within. It's a spy thriller turducken. Anyway, that's it for today. We are done with the continuity report. Thanks for sticking around. We ran a little bit longer because we were having a good time talking about the show and all of the movies. I mean, there's just so many in this. I wanted to list these. There is minutia here in the 30 best spy movies of all time. Just go through them, write them all down, go over to the site, over to Screen Rant. You can follow the link in the show notes. It'll take you through ohmTown over to screenrant.com, or you can do a search, best spy secret agent movies of all time. And just kind of scroll through these, make a list, and then start watching them, and then come back and talk with us each Sunday, 7:30-ish. We basically do the show as quick as possible, turnaround time, after our daily news show on Sunday. Saturday is Reality Hacker. We've got 2 more shows that are being planned. May come out as early as February 1st, maybe sooner if I can get all my ducks in a row, but I want to, not February 1st, March 1st. If I can get all of my ducks in a row sooner, then it'll come out sooner, but it'll be another weekend show happening either after this show, or we'll pull the dial back another hour and start ohmTown Daily at 5 instead of 6. Basically make an evening of ohmTown. So at any rate, burn this after reading. Everybody get back into the party bus. We drive all the way back down Main Street. Y'all can't see what I just did, but we slid all the way back down all the 30 tabs that I've got open for the show. And here we are back in the continuity report. So all you have to do is find continuity report and hit that, and it'll refresh. And if there is some new stuff that has come in, you will have a whole new list of new articles. We're going to be adding more sources to our aggregator. And again, we don't screen scrape or anything like that. We just get the little headline, a little snippet that is provided by the source, and we talk about it. And it's primarily for me to manage my information overload. I wouldn't be able to get through the day without something like this, and I made it open to the public. So go check it out, ohmtown.com. That's it. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmtown.com, and up there is the saint that is the sentient AI that's keeping an eye on me. It's now throwing error messages and looks of. If you could hear a digital representation of eyes rolling into the back of a person's head, that is what the sentient AI is actually doing when I'm talking about having patience of a saint. Anyway.
Good night, hometown citizens. We will see you tomorrow for the Daily Show at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then stay tuned next weekend for Reality Hacker and Continuity Report. Maybe slightly delayed, but we'll get those posted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mayoral duties ensue next week, so it's going to be difficult for me to do any show, so we're going to pause for most of next week, and then we'll ramp it all back up starting next weekend. So thanks for your patience, and hey, if you follow us over here on Twitch and on YouTube, maybe we can move the needle towards Mayor Watt doing this full time here on Twitch, because the goal is to have 50 shows, each one about an hour each week, including the Daily Show being a daily show of an hour, hour and a half. I want to have co-hosts doing the shows or hosting the shows when I'm not available, because I'm doing mayoral duties. But at any rate, stay in touch. Follow us here on Twitch. Go over to YouTube. Follow us over there. Let's make this happen. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.